Welcome back to another episode of the Couch Coverage. Today we're going to be covering some news, and we're going to be playing some more of who will have a better season. To kick this one off with the news, we're going to be going with Rashee Rice. He just got sentenced 5 years of probation and only 30 days of jail time. The 30 days of jail time, which I thought this was kind of weird. I've never seen this before. He could serve it anytime he wants between the 5 years of probation. I didn't even know that was a thing. So with that being NFL related, he's projected to be suspended 5 to 7 games as he's guilty on 2 felonies. Because as a reminder, he had a hit and run after a multi-car crash, 40 miles per hour over the speed limit.
That's crazy.
What do you guys?
That's half the season.
Yeah.
That's almost like the whole season. 7 games.
Yeah, a lot of people were saying that it's not. I remember like just a couple months ago, people were like, I don't even think Rice will get, he'll have any suspension this year because they didn't think he was going to get any. They were not going to close their trial by then. But as you could see, like they'll definitely suspend him this season. There's no way they push it off to next, right?
I don't think so. I think everyone I've seen talk about it is the expectation is he's going to definitely get somewhere between at least 4 to 6 game suspension.
But it is good for Xavier Worthy, right? He's going to be number 1 now.
Yes,
hey, I might have to pick him up, buddy. I might have to pick him up for my fantasy this year.
That's true.
Pretty good last year.
That must kill people's dynasties too. Just imagine if you had Rashee Rice last year. You already know about the sentence. That happened before last season. And then he ended up getting hurt, only played like 4 games, and now he's going to be missing half the season, this year. I feel like that's like a wasted pick, and there's so much potential there because, when he plays, he's good. He's a good player. So,
yeah, because realistically...
I'm a little shocked he only got 30 days, personally, because didn't he, flee? Didn't he, run from the crash as well?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
And then, a week later, he punched a security guard in the face.
What's with all these NFL players and car crashes and high speeds and stuff, man? What the heck? Dude.
Feels like every time a star player grabs a little bit of money, they get into the pro league, they just decide they don't know how to act.
I don't blame them. I'd be going 120 if I got $1 million. Fuck that.
Well. All right, buddy.
Oh, man.
You're going to be playing with Henry Ruggs in prison.
What? What are you? Jerome wants to join me there, man. He's a little too happy.
No, man. No.
That's wild.
No, dude, if I got that paycheck, I wouldn't be going and buying those Lambos and speeding down the road. No, sir.
No. You got to be smarter in that situation. If I had that kind of money, I wouldn't be doing anything. I'd be politically correct in everything I do. Make sure you think about it. It's better to even pay somebody. A lot of these guys do. That's the unfortunate part is they pay for PR people. They just don't listen. That's the biggest issue. So I don't know. That's scary to me.
It is wild. All right, we'll move on here. We're going to go over to TJ Watt now. He just got extended. He is now the highest paid player, non-quarterback in the league. 3 years, $123 million. That's going to be $41 million per year. He leads the league in sacks of the last 5 years with 73.5. The craziest thing I thought about this, I remember we did a video not too long ago about this. A lot of Steelers fans actually didn't want to see him get extended. They just thought it was too much money, which in my mind, I thought that was crazy because, there's a big differential when he's on and off the field. So what do you guys think about that?
I think it just proves that the Steelers are in a win-now mood. Like I said in the other video with the people they're picking up, they want to keep their defense intact. I think it was personally a good pickup. Keeping him was a smart move. It is definitely a lot of money, but I think it definitely shows that they're in a win now mode. They're not wanting to wait.
Now, do you think they go all the way up to the finals, like the Super Bowl, realistically, with the team they have?
I'll say they could be. I'll say they'll be a dark horse.
Do you think they're beating the Chiefs?
I guess we'll see.
I think it's more.
The Chiefs players are ending up in jail, so you never know. It could happen.
Yeah, I think a lot of teams go all in when they think they're close. It doesn't mean they're going to get that close. They're just hoping because it's a wait and see thing. This is not a situation where you have a Mahomes who's still in his prime and you sort of expect just fit in the missing pieces and let's go. No, this they brought over a veteran quarterback who's probably ready to retire in a year. So we don't know what we're going to get from him. They do got good players around him. I think TJ Watt obviously if you can afford him, is a good decision. I don't think there's any of our teams that wouldn't want him. It's only a money thing. So I think what Zach brought up, it was mostly people thinking, is it a point where we can get a lot for him that could help the team moving on? Or is he good enough to pay that kind of money? Because, when you pay a lot of these guys a lot of money, it eventually comes back later on to hurt you when you can't sign other people, so down the road. So I think Jarrell's right too. It's definitely them thinking we have a chance to go to the Super Bowl this year. Let's do everything we can. But I don't, if you ask my opinion, I'm still not sold that Pittsburgh has the team to beat those teams out there that just have younger talent and like quarterback and stuff. So I don't know, but I'm not saying they can't. I just don't know.
Now, saying that, do you think like they're going to be like a very, how do you say it? Like they're going to have a very they're going to have a bad next year. Like next year, they're going to be like terrible because they have no money, like people are all leaving.
Yeah, I do think so. Because I agree with what Shane said. I think that, honestly, some people are rumored that maybe Rodgers will play one more season, but I honestly, truly think that this is actually his final season. After this one, he's done. And then they're right back into the spot. Who did they draft? What was the rookie's name? The Ohio State guy. I forgot what his name was.
I don't know.
Oh, man, it's on the tip of my tongue. They do have him. So if Will Howard.
Oh yeah.
So if he ends up, because obviously that's what they're planning. They want him to sit the year, like they did with Mahomes when he came in the league, sat under Alex Smith. So it looks like that's what they're doing, trying to do the same thing. And they think they have a win now team, and hopefully Will Howard could be their future. Do I believe that? Probably not, but I do agree with you guys. I think at least they believe they're in a win now situation. But I don't know, Kevin, to answer your question, I don't think they'll get that far. I think the AFC is just too tough. You saw division alone, they got to get through the Ravens and the Bengals. So
and the Bills.
That's already
if they make it.
Right. And then they got the Bills, the Chiefs, it's Broncos, Chargers, just overall AFC. I don't know. Like there's a very good chance they could have a 9-10 game win season and not make playoffs.
Yeah, and we talked about this before. And TJ Watt was sort of expected. He was on the team. They just don't know. And everyone said they're still going to be third place in that division with everything they're doing. So I don't think his signing changes anything. If anything, they may have thought, well, it's going to be harder to even get third if he wasn't there, being the team captain. So I don't know if they're good enough to beat the other two teams. They're going to have to prove it and show everyone, that they can do it. Because, the Bengals and Ravens are just going to be solid teams.
All right, we'll move on from that one there. Next little news we got here, Mike Williams' retirement. I was actually very surprised to see this one. He started on the Jets last year. He started his career actually with the Chargers. And then, he ended up going to the Jets last year. Didn't seem like it was panning out. Every week there was some kind of drama with him and Rodgers. He ended up getting traded to the Steelers, which is funny because that's where Rodgers is now. Right before the deadline. Then he signed back at the beginning of this season, this offseason, back with the Chargers. And then he retired out of nowhere. I had no idea why, and I actually did a little bit of research, and it was actually due to injuries. I guess he was on the PUP list. And sometimes that could, in my mind, could be the team just going to cut you. And that's why, you're like, okay, well, you just use that as an excuse. But this guy has been through so many injuries, I wouldn't even be surprised if that was true. This dude, I feel like he's, he never plays a full season, I feel like. What do you guys think?
I'll be short and sweet, quite honest. I don't have too much recollection of him.
Wow.
So, happy career, happy retirement. Good luck to him.
Right. I saw Justin Herbert was very sad. He because he was a bit, Williams is a bit older. I mean, this would have been either he retired after 8 seasons or this would have been 8 seasons. So he did have a little bit of a lengthy career, if you look at it that way. So, and I heard that Justin Herbert was very sad to see him go, but he's excited to see what they got with their wide receiver core.
Yeah, it sort of seemed to me like it wasn't so unexpected, but when you think about it, especially when they talk about it's his 8th year, and you start thinking, oh man, that's a little bit soon. because some of these receivers obviously last longer than that sometimes. So it's a mixed feeling. I know when he was in his prime, which again wasn't really that long ago, he was a decent player and stuff. And now when it showed up, I wasn't shocked. I was like, oh, okay, congratulations, happy retirements. But I don't really know if it's, I think the people that played with him might think differently, but yeah, I don't think anybody's saying, "Oh my God, I don't have him on my fantasy team anymore." I don't think that's what anyone's thinking. So it's like, I don't know if it's a huge shock for most people, besides Justin Herbert,
Right. All right, we'll move on from that one, since most of the people in here don't even really know who he is. All right, so now I have the last one is a surprise news. You guys don't know about this one. I went ahead and smacked it on. There seems to be a little bit of drama in Washington. Scary Terry, he's looking to get a contract extension. He has not been able to get one. He's still on his last contract extension. He's in his final year. He has stated about a week ago that he is frustrated and disappointed in the lack of progress towards a contract extension. And he also stated that there has been no communication with the Commanders and him for about a month, over a month, which is wild. This is your best wide receiver here.
Yeah.
Now the team has made a Twitter post basically naming all the players who got married this year. And Scary Terry actually got married in February, and he was actually left out of the post. They didn't even put him in there. One of the fans ended up retweeting it and said that was very disrespectful of the organization. And then Scary Terry himself liked the tweet, which, on Twitter, you could see your likes. So I feel like there's a little bit of drama brewing going on with the Washington. So do we think that maybe he might be looking to get traded? I know he stated plenty of times that he wants to stay there, but if they're not even communicating with him, why stay? What do you guys think?
He was like one of the biggest talents from Washington last year. Like if it wasn't for him, like Jaden Daniels, he wouldn't be what he is today,
Yeah.
So like I think they lose him, they probably become bad again. I don't know. Maybe they have another wide receiver we don't know about, but I don't know.
That's sort of what I heard. Then. I think I didn't know if it had a lot of credibility to it, but you first think, oh man, they need to sign him. I know he wants money close to Garrett Wilson now, so I think that gives him about $7 million more a year. So I know the cost is there, but they just signed Von Miller and gave him $6 million. I think incentives he goes up to $10 million. So people are wondering, why aren't you paying your best receiver really? Instead of bringing in these old veterans that you really are hoping will help you on a big play in a big game. That's really what Von Miller is going to do. He's not going to play every down. He's probably going to come in on third down, rush the quarterback. They're going to hope he, sacks Mahomes or somebody on a big play. But they don't want to pay Terry. So it almost thinks, I heard that talk when you said, Kevin, that people think they have something in the works. And they're looking at maybe either trading him or I don't know what the situation's, but maybe they're looking at somebody else. I don't know. It's sort of a weird situation with these business decisions these teams do sometimes.
Yeah, especially not prioritizing Scary Terry, over Von Miller, having him, Von Miller every year has not played a full season because either he's hurt or he's gotten in some trouble. If Scary Terry's stats speak for himself, but if you want to talk about consistency, the last 4 years, he hasn't missed a single game for them. So he, even health-wise, he's been there every single play. His entire career, he's been with Washington. He's hit 1,000 yards every single season besides the first year, where he had 919, but he only had 58 receptions that year and only 14 games played. His touchdowns have been a little low, but I feel like, Washington have been kind of crappy over the years, so they haven't really been scoring that many. And then when they finally give him a good quarterback, because, his quarterback play has been very rough, Jaden Daniels, he ends up getting 13, his best in his career. So, yeah, Kevin, you're definitely right. That's his, best season last year. I feel like, last year on your contract, you should sign the dude. I feel like you have no other choice but to give him the money.
Yeah.
Let me throw something out there toward you guys. Do you think them signing Debo, they think he can replace Terry if they're looking to get rid of him? Because I don't think that's a good decision.
They must be on heavy drugs if they believe that.
Yeah, I heard that talk too.
My problem with the whole thing is he's still got a year in his contract, right? You said that. He's still got, this is the last year of his contract.
Correct.
Why is he even worried about it? play your last year of your contract, then get your money. The problem is all these receivers nowadays, they see this other receiver, oh, they just got paid. Now I need to get paid now, or I'm going to put my little tutu on and throw a fit. So the issue is it's just play the damn game. Go out, play the game, show that you're a good receiver, which he is. He will get paid, if not by Washington, by another team. But you still got a year on your contract, dude. Maybe they want to spend the money elsewhere, like Von Miller, bring somebody else in. They don't have to pay you right now. You have another year. Why do you need the money now? Oh, because you did good last season? Okay, relax.
But it's
Your
not
money can come. But
it's
relax.
not just that. It's about
Like
like the disrespect, right? Like on Twitter, like they didn't.
How is it disrespect?
Imagine who's the guy from Green Bay, man? Josh Jacobs. Imagine if that they did that to Josh Jacobs. What would you think? You know,
Dude, I would say the same thing. You still have a year. You still have a year left on your contract. It's not. We're not telling you we're not going to pay you.
That's
Maybe
arguably
we need
your
to
best
use
player.
the funds a different way. Okay,
That's
is he going to go anywhere? We still have him signed for another year. And guess what?
That's
Nowadays,
just
how many
dude.
people are ready to step up? You want to cry? I'd say get the hell off my team. Go. I got another
I think
receiver.
it's also
I got another receiver that can step up.
I think it's also another thing is if it's, this is still a business, and if he goes out there and he gets hurt, his stock is going to plummet very, very crazily. You know what I mean? He goes out there and he tears his ACL. Yeah. His stock is not going to be as close to as what it is. Because right now it's at an all-time peak, in my opinion. Because like Kevin said, he just came off the best season of his career. You know what I'm saying? So if you want to keep the guy, because, if you don't wait and it gets to free agency, he's going to test free agency. You sign him now, then he's stuck on your team, if you're going to be and he said plenty of times though that he's been very, very nice about it, very mature. He said that he wants to play for Washington. He said he doesn't want to trade. He doesn't want to do that. But he's hoping that they don't give him that choice where he's, going to have to demand for a trade.
Yeah, I think it's the first step the players do. If he was really wanting to get out of there, he would be talking about, I want to trade. So I think he's putting pressure on the team. The team is probably doing what Jarrell was saying. They may want to just let him play out his last year of contract and see how it goes. And he doesn't want to do that. I mean, obviously, as a business decision, he's probably thinking, if I do get hurt, the team's thinking the same thing. If you sign a long-term deal, they're stuck probably with guaranteed money on a hurt player. And, a lot of teams seen what happened over there with Watson over in Cleveland, how they got stuck and the player never played. So I can see both sides, the team's trying to protect themselves, the player's trying to protect himself. But it is interesting because, they're a team that people think will challenge for the Super Bowl. And this kind of drama extending in the season never helps any team. I don't know any team can you guys remember any team that went to the Super Bowl that had all this kind of big players not signing during the season, holdouts? I don't traditionally see that. It's usually the teams have signed their people. They're happy. They're playing. They're getting through some injuries, and then they just overachieve or whatever, But I don't remember this with the Eagles last year. You didn't have a whole bunch of stuff that extended out, and every team has. Don't get me wrong. There's negotiation, but it just seems like it's turning into something bad. And maybe Terry's trying to get a little pressure on him, but both sides have to decide, or it's just going to the PR side of it's going to be horrible. I think.
I do kind of side with Terry though. Like he's not a wide receiver 3. He's not like a bad. He's the best player on your team, and you're not treating him with
right.
I'd say Daniels is the best player.
But without
we're talking about like main skill position here.
Yeah, without him, they wouldn't have gotten there.
Quarterback's not a skill position.
I mean, no, it's technically not. When you're talking about skill positions, it's wide receiver, tight ends, and running backs.
Bill's raised.
So you don't have to be skilled. You don't have to be skilled to play quarterback. Anybody can go out there like Daniel Jones and play quarterback. So you're gonna tell me if Daniel Jones was on the Commanders, they'd be just as good?
He's just doing this because this quarterback's the worst out of all 3 of us. So that's fine. Just let him be.
You're right. Baker Mayfield. I'm sorry.
Oh,
right.
I see how it is because he's a Packers fan and he's tired of his team drafting wide receiver 2s all the time, and he's a little jealous of the Commanders having wide receiver 1. He doesn't want them to sign because he's like, maybe they'll come over to the Packers.
Do you think Jordan Love is? You think Jordan Love is better than Baker Mayfield? Like honestly,
I do. He's taller too, I think.
Bro, I wish Bale was in here, man.
All right, so here I have a question. If you are starting a team today, like you're the GM, you get to start a team, but you can only pick out of 2 quarterbacks, Jordan Love or Baker Mayfield.
Come
You're
on,
going you're
Joel.
going Jordan Love.
Come
I'm
on,
going Jordan
Joel.
Love all day.
Dude,
All
you're
day.
crazy. You're crazy.
Interesting.
You're crazy.
Are
How
we
about you
talking
guys?
Are we talking about like a dynasty team or a regular team?
Like if you're an NFL GM, like you're gonna start, you want to win the Super Bowl, but you're given the choice between 2 quarterbacks. That's what we're starting off with. You don't know the rest of your team. You have no idea who's your coaching staff, whatever. You only know this question. You either get Baker or Jordan Love, and then we got to build from there. Who are you picking?
Yeah, I seen that. I just saw that. I think talked to Zach about it, about interview with Barber over there, Rondé Barber. He was talking about that with Baker Mayfield. I mean, he loves Baker Mayfield, and he did get asked that Zach question about Jordan Love, and he said that if you ask the same question in 3 or 4 years, he may not say the same answer because he thought Jordan Love is going to turn into a quarterback that's going to be really good and his stats and stuff, but he said currently he would definitely take Baker Mayfield because currently he said, Baker's more in his prime than Jordan is. And I think that was interesting listening to that because, I mean, obviously he has a preference and he was pretty much picking Baker over everyone until getting back to what we were just talking about, Jaden Daniels. Then he didn't really answer the question because he was like, oh, that's a different thing. They never let him, he never really answered it, but it seemed like he was on the fence on which one he would pick there. So I guess,
story.
That's
I would
crazy. A
pick
Bucks
Jaden
player
Daniels.
picking a Bucks quarterback.
I would pick Jaden
Crazy.
Daniels. I would pick Jaden Daniels over Baker Mayfield, but come on, Jarrell. Dude. Jordan Love over Baker Mayfield, dude. Are you serious?
let's run in Madden, baby. Let's see who would win.
This
Oh,
guy.
man.
Oh,
not
we
the
got a
Madden
Madden
call-out.
challenge going. That's going to be on the next video.
Look out for it.
Look it out for it.
Welcome back to the couch coverage. We have moved on to the next segment here. We're going to be going over who will have the better season, but with a twist. Same team edition. So we're going to be picking players from the same team, and we're going to be saying who will have the better season in 2025. To start off with, will Jonnu Smith have a better season than Pat Freiermuth? Jonnu Smith just got traded there. Now we have 2 tight ends who will be battling for that tight end 1 spot. Will Jonnu Smith have a better season than Pat Freiermuth?
Yes.
We all collectively agree. So. Interesting. To me, it just feels like with Pat Freiermuth, like I think he's been there like 3 years now, and Steeler fans are still like, oh, give him a shot, let him develop. I think that he's mid, in my opinion. I don't think he's what the Steelers fans wanted out of him. I think that's why they traded for Jonnu Smith, because they needed another weapon. I do think they will go a lot of 2 double tight ends, but they needed another weapon. That's why they added him in the deal, and that's why they ended up taking him. What do you guys think?
I totally agree. I think Jonnu Smith is the much better tight end. When I was looking at his stats, he's basically outplayed Pat every single season. So in the mindset, I'm going to say it again, win now season, the 2 tight end probably will be good for him because Pat's not a bad player. Definitely good in the red zone. He'll excel for them, and it'll give another option on the field. So, but Jonnu Smith will definitely have the better season.
Yeah, and I think a big factor as well, because last year, Jonnu Smith was on the Dolphins, but the year before that, when he was on the Falcons, there was so much complaining about, oh, why is Kyle Pitts not getting the ball? Why is Jonnu Smith getting all these red zone targets? What's going on? And that's because of a man named Arthur Smith. He was the head coach at the time for the Falcons. Now guess who is the Steelers' offensive coordinator? Arthur Smith. Arthur Smith.
Wow.
And then they just traded for him. So Arthur Smith might have been the one that was like, hey, Tomlin, GM, let's get Jonnu Smith. I've worked with him before. I liked him. He's very well. He's obviously just came off his best season ever. So I honestly think that, in my opinion, that Jonnu Smith getting traded there is just showing that they don't really believe in Pat Freiermuth as much. All right.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's sort of like what you've seen in the Ravens with Andrews and Likely. It doesn't mean he's like a bad tight end, but I think there's a reason they traded for Jonnu Smith, and I think he's had more success of late and definitely had a good year last year. So I think right now, currently, how could you not say Jonnu Smith's not going to go in there as a number 1 tight end for Pittsburgh? I think that's what they're looking at. And I think that he's more likely to do it. And if Pat really wants to keep that job, he needs to step up. So it'll be interesting to see what they do.
Yeah, 100%. I agree on that. All right, we'll move on to the next players that we got here. This one's a little bit spicier, in my opinion. We're gonna go wide receivers.
Ooh.
Will wide receiver 1, Mike Evans, have a better season than wide receiver 2, Chris Godwin? I feel like every year they're battling for that first spot. Oh, Jarrell says no. He thinks Chris Godwin, Mike Evans. I'm so 50-50, but I'm going to go with Mike Evans as well. Jarrell,
Okay.
go ahead and defend Chris Godwin himself, man.
Listen, man, Chris Godwin usually always gets more receptions during the season. He's targeted more, but Mike Evans gets those big plays. He gets the airtime, all of that. So, yes, Mike Evans is going to get his 1,000 yards this season, no doubt about it. Continue the streak, all that. But I think Chris Godwin is going to come in and just run the team this year. I think it's time. I think it's time for him to step up. Evans is getting older. Time for the younger guns to come in and show why they're there.
All right. Kevin, do you want to, Kevin's a Bucs fan himself. Kevin, do you want to go ahead and defend Mike Evans here of why you think he'll have a better season than Chris Godwin? I know you like them both.
He's the GOAT. I mean, Mike Evans is the best wide receiver, arguably. Come on. I don't think he's going to get outplayed by Chris Godwin. Sorry.
Yeah, I do think the Bucs have easily 2 wide receiver 1s. I think we can all agree with that. Chris Godwin would be a wide receiver 1 on many teams. I think that Mike Evans is a little bit tougher. When I say that, he's not as injury prone as Godwin. Godwin's always fighting injuries, and I feel like that's his big downfall. Last year, he was the wide receiver. What was it, 2, 3, until he dislocated his ankle against the Ravens. Yeah. So I do think that, and I do think Jarrell has a good point. Baker Mayfield does like to target Chris Godwin a lot, and they rely on him, especially because Evans is probably getting cornerback 1 on him most of the time. Some double teams, they probably plan around him. So I definitely could see Chris Godwin. I think it's a toss-up, in my opinion, because they both had, just a couple years ago, 2023, Godwin had like 1,000 yards, only 2 touchdowns. And Evans had 1,200 with 13 touchdowns. You know what I mean? And that's like a clear winner.
I feel like Mike Evans is just like a red zone demon. You can't get him out, dude. He's in touchdown field. He's gonna get a touchdown. It doesn't matter if there's 2, 3 defenders on him.
And that's definitely what Chris Godwin lacks, is his touchdown ability. Him and Mike Evans, if you compare yardage, it looks like it could be somewhat close, but the touchdowns, believe it or not, Godwin's actually never had a 10 touchdown season, ever, even when he's played 17 games, which he's only actually done that once, too. So he's played 16, 16, 14, 12, 14, 15, 17, and then last year a total of 7. So I think if it's not Godwin's injury, I do think they're going to be forcing the ball on Mike Evans. I mean, he scores more touchdowns, so I think he takes the cake here.
Yeah, I think you asked me on this. It is a tough question there because, I mean, if you look at both of them, I mean, I think it's obvious. If you look at last year, the situation happened, you would say Mike Evans. But to be honest with you, really, I think it's one of those, it depends. Like, I think what you guys mentioned, Chris Godwin, if he stays healthy and played as many games as Mike Evans, it would be interesting what they would do. But the thing is, it hasn't happened that way. I mean, last year, Godwin played 7 games and Evans played 14. So, when you look at it, there is some things like receptions. Even though that he played as half as amount of games, he had 50 receptions. Evans had 74. So he didn't really double him with the double game. He only had 25% more or whatever, or 50%, I guess, in that case. But it wasn't enough. It'd been interesting if they both played 14 games, what would have happened? I mean, I know Evans is going to perform. I think Godwin, I just don't trust that he stays healthy all year. So if you ask me that question, I would say, I don't think Godwin can, because I don't think he can stay healthy. But if he stays healthy 14 games and Evans is 14 games, what will happen? It'd be interesting because we do know Baker likes to throw to him, and Evans does get double teamed a lot. But, Godwin just, he got 500 and something yards catching last year because he was only in 7 games, So
Yeah, not even playing half the season and getting 500 yards though is kind of crazy. Like,
yeah, it's
let's admit that,
not
like
bad at all.
that's a pretty decent going on season. Bucks have a pretty good wide receiver core, I would say. I mean, overall, they've got some nice offensive weapons. Now their defense is not the greatest, but I feel like there's going to be a lot of good games with the Bucks this year, high scoring games.
Yeah, it
All
was
right,
pretty good. No, pretty good.
That Eagles game's about to be crazy.
all right, we'll go into the next players here. We got another little spicy one. Will Rome Odunzes have a better season than Luther Burden? Rome Odunzes was a rookie last year, heading into his sophomore year, got drafted. Obviously, he was probably a little bit let down. He was supposed to be the wide receiver 3 there. Matt Eberflus got fired this year. They went ahead and hired Ben Johnson, came over from the Lions, offensive coordinator. And then they went ahead and drafted another wide receiver pretty early on in the second round with Luther Burden. So the question is, who will have a better season, the sophomore year guy or the rookie? Will Rome Odunzes have a better season than Luther Burden?
Be honest with you, I don't know who the heck these guys are, so I'm gonna say yes.
Rome Odunzes.
I
You
don't
think
watch the
no?
Bears for
I'm
nothing.
gonna say
I'm
no.
gonna go no as well. All right, Shane. Since Kevin doesn't really know who these guys are, do you want to go ahead and defend Rome Odunzes here?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's really one of those. I would like to have more of a neutral. Sometimes
Yeah.
I don't know. Really, and I just think he's. He has the capability to do a little bit more there and get the receptions and stuff. So I think he will have the potential to have the better season. But out of these two, I'm not completely sure. It could be. I could be different on there, but I'm not really that sold on either one of them yet. I want to see what they can do. I do believe they're both, they have the ability to perform, but I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, I think they brought Luther Burden in for a reason. I think maybe the coach isn't all in on Rome Odunzes, and I do think Rome Odunzes is a great wide receiver. But with that being said, Luther Burden is just a whole other guy. He's their speed guy. He's the guy that you want to try to get him on reverses, little quick routes, getting him in. He's going to be lined up in the slot, so he's going to be getting a lot of volume. Like, they're going to be forcing him the ball is basically what I'm saying. And I think that I don't necessarily think that in college he had the greatest quarterback. I'm not saying he was horrible, but I don't think it was the greatest. And he did what he could, and he's just a speed man. And I think that's what they needed, really. They had DJ Moore, Rome Odunzes, which is kind of like the same wide receiver built. And now they finally have a different type of wide receiver in there. So I think it's close. It's close for sure. They're two different wide receivers and, different years, but I think Luther Burden will take it on this one just by slightly. We're going to be moving on to the next player here. Will Omarion Hampton, new rookie running back, have a better season than Najee Harris, who just had a firework incident? Kevin thinks no.
Oh, actually, never mind. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah, he's
Wait.
fine,
Terrell
man.
thinks
He's
no.
fine. They already said that he'll be playing. So
I think Jarrell's a little biased here. Jarrell just traded for Najee Harris not too long ago with that Saquon Barkley trade. So now I think he's being a little biased. But what do you got to say, Jarrell? Why do you think Najee Harris will have a better season than the rookie? First round rookie.
man, right. He's a veteran, right? So he's proven his game. He's a downhill runner. He's physical. They brought him in for a reason. So they plan on using him. Just because they have a rookie and they drafted one doesn't mean that they're just going to sit Harris and not play him.
As much as I hate the Eagles, why would you trade Saquon Barkley for Najee Harris? What the hell is that?
No.
That's crazy.
Wait,
you totally took that out of context. That's for our fantasy, and I did not trade Barkley for Harris. Harris was in a group trade that came to me.
All right, to get back on track, I just think that Omarion Hampton he's a first round pick. I think when they originally got Najee Harris, like maybe they were planning on drafting a running back, but not so early. And Omarion Hampton kind of fell to them because honestly, I thought the Broncos were going to draft Omarion Hampton at pick 22 or something like that. They ended up going somewhere else. But he's a first round pick. They're going to give him the ball. They're going to feed him the ball. He's a big guy, second best running back in my opinion in the draft. Could easily maybe even be the best if he's in the right position. He could have the best rookie season of all the running backs. just because of Gentry is, being on the Raiders. I don't know. I think Najee Harris is kind of out of his prime. I kind of see this situation almost as a Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery situation. When the Lions had David Montgomery, they signed him first, and then they ended up drafting Jahmyr Gibbs first round. Nobody saw that coming. Everyone was like, "Whoa, that was weird." And it's working out. They both, they're both getting the ball. I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs does seem like the better one, but David Montgomery fits his role, and I think Najee Harris is going to be doing that this year. Is just fitting his role.
Yep, I agree with you.
Yeah, I think this is a perfect example where you may have a running back by committee situation. I think you got two running backs who easily could be the first string running back on many teams. And, Harris, he was behind really not a very good line over there in Pittsburgh. And Chargers have a much better line, I think, really, than a lot of people rate the Steelers line. And, I think Hampton, he's a beast too. 3,000 yards in the last 2 seasons in college. Harris has been consistent with 1,000 yards every season or the last 4 seasons, I think. It's definitely, I think they're going to play both of them. And if one of them doesn't stay healthy or one of them does shine more, he may get the bigger share of, ball. But I think it's definitely going to be a mix to begin. And, I think if you're looking at fantasy wise, I think that's going to be a little bit of could be a concern. It could also mean it could be a Detroit Lions situation where both running backs could give you the points. So I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it will start off maybe with what Jarrell's saying, because Jarrell does have a point. Like, they did bring in Najee Harris, and they're going to use him. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying he's going to sit back and he's going to get like 3 carries a game, and then Hampton's going to get 20. I do think it will be a split backfield, and I do think at the beginning, Najee Harris probably will start, and there's probably a good chance that he will get, first coverage, as long as his eye is okay. We'll see what happens with that. But I think it will be a committee, and I can see, because, I mean, they're both bigger running backs, and Hampton can fight off, tackles as well, but he's also pretty speedy, So I think Hampton is just overall better there, and he's going to be able to catch the ball more. So if we're talking about a fantasy impact, I think with the receiving game added to it, I think Hampton will do better.
I agree. I just forgot about the firework thing. I really did.
Yeah.
And
so
I
if
think
he
that's
never
gonna
got
hinder
hurt,
him.
if he never got hurt and he never had the firework incident, you actually think that Najee Harris would have an
Yeah.
overall better season?
Yep.
Why do you think? So you
100%.
think he's like the better player, or why do you think that?
I think he's just a better player. Then I don't know. I don't watch college. I just see stats from he's been pretty consistent, pretty good. With this injury, I don't know.
Yeah,
he might still be good. He might still be good. I might just be tripping, but I don't know, man. That looking scary.
Najee had a good rookie season, I believe. I don't have the stats right in front of me, but he had a pretty good rookie season. So, I mean, Najee Harris definitely could put up a battle at the running back spot. But just because they picked him in the first round, just because Harbaugh loves his running backs, obviously he loves his line. That's what he built first before he built anything else, was that line. I don't know, man. I think it's going to show that Hampton is going to be the better running back, and it's going to show pretty quickly. Like, I'd say give it about 4 games.
All right.
Yeah. We'll move on to here. We have the last name. This one's actually a little bit spicy because, when we're doing same team edition, it's kind of hard to add into the quarterbacks. But, they haven't announced a starter yet, and they said they're both fighting for the spot. So will Anthony Richardson have a better season than Daniel Jones? Yes. You guys are all a yes. I'm no. So I'll go ahead and kick it off.
Mine's dependent if he stays healthy.
Right.
Yes, if he's healthy. No, if not.
I think the big question is who plays more games. You know what I mean? That's obviously because, they're both not going to be on the field. I mean, they're both quarterbacks. This is not like Najee Harris versus Omarion Hampton. They can't really split the carries unless Anthony Richardson is just going to start running the ball only. I don't know. I don't believe in Anthony Richardson at all. I do think AR will start. I think they will put him out there. I can't hear you, Shane.
No, I was talking. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
We'll have to.
No, all good.
Katie just came in, so I was trying to talk to her.
Gotcha. Anyways, to continue what I was saying, I don't think Anthony Richardson. I don't believe in Anthony Richardson. I do think they'll start. I think that was kind of bullshit when they were saying, "Oh, they're fighting for the spot." Like, come on, really? You think Daniel Jones is a Super Bowl worthy quarterback? So, I mean, Anthony Richardson only has glimpse of good stuff, but he showed a lot worse than he's actually showed positive. And I don't think Anthony Richardson will hold that spot. I think the Colts are just going to keep doing what they're doing. They'll start him. He'll either get hurt, gassed, or he's just not going to be doing it. And then they're going to end up throwing Daniel Jones in there. And he's had some good seasons. I mean, his touchdowns have always been low, but he's had some pretty good seasons where he's well over 3,000 yards. So as long as he's not throwing interceptions, I think that there's going to be a chance where he does end up starting, and he'll probably end up having a better season than Anthony Richardson on that alone.
Yeah, interception's really what kills Anthony. Yeah, I'm seeing right now he had 12 interceptions last year. That's crazy. That's pretty high.
He didn't even play the entire season.
Yeah, but I feel like they'll start him off. Like you said, I think they have faith in him. But if he gets hurt or he starts doing bad, I think they'll switch.
Yeah, I think it's a hard one to go up and down with which one, because I think obviously Anthony Richardson has so much talent. He has so much expectations to do well, but he hasn't really been able to do it. He hasn't been able to stay healthy or consistent. I do think they're trying to make sure he has a chance to start, but Daniel Jones could easily step in here if he. I wouldn't feel secure about this, picking Anthony Richardson, because like Kevin just said, if he struggles, I think, it's one of those situations where he may get yanked. There's a lot of teams that the starter doesn't really have that, fear. But I think with this team, you got somebody behind you that they brought in because they don't really know if you can be that person every week. And if he can't be that person, I think he's going to have a short leash. I think they're going to yank him out. And then Daniel Jones has that opportunity to play, because I just don't know right now if they have that confidence. And, he has a potential to step in and do something like, a lot of people thought he'd be more like the Jaden Daniels, and he hasn't been. So unless he can show that, he may have to worry about who's behind him.
It might be the motivation to make him do good,
Yeah,
true.
I think people are just blinded by Anthony Richardson because he's kind of like the perfect build, I would say, for a mobile quarterback. You know what I mean? He's a big dude. He's good height, good speed, and obviously he has the arm. He could throw it down the field. I'm not saying that. Dude could definitely chuck it. He's just not consistent with it and being accurate, and he throws a lot of interceptions. He throws bad passes, when he shouldn't be throwing them. And I don't think that's a Super Bowl worthy quarterback. I don't think it's a playoff worthy quarterback. And I'm not saying Daniel Jones is either. I just think in the passing game, I think it's going to allow the Colts to do more, because if we're being honest, they have Jonathan Taylor. They have the run game already there. So if Anthony Richardson is not going to make that a plus there, and they have no pass game, I think Daniel Jones is going to get into the spotlight. Now, next question here, we'll switch it up a little bit. How do we think that this would impact fantasy of who they would pick to start? For example, if you had Josh Downs, the wide receiver, or Michael Pittman, any of those guys, the tight end, Tyler Warren, that just got drafted, who would you rather have throwing the ball? Daniel Jones or Anthony Richardson? And let's be honest. I think I would rather have Daniel Jones, if I'm being honest. I think if you have Anthony Richardson in there and say, you have Josh Downs as one of your fantasy wide receivers, I think you're going to be very touchdown dependent at that point. I don't think you're going to see a lot of receptions with a high amount of yards, since, his completion percentage is always so low. What do you guys think?
I can't say anything because I am not drafting any Giants or Colts players. I am not drafting any Colts players on my team, so I can't even say anything.
Yeah, I think what a lot of people are going to be thinking right now is, what teams that does training camp mean so much in certain positions. And I think if you think about training camp coming up for them, the Colts, it really means a lot, because, they're probably looking, I think they're seriously looking at both quarterbacks, and they're going to give both quarterbacks a chance to show us what you have. And I hope they're hoping, because of what they invested with Anthony Richardson, but I don't think he has a guaranteed start. So training camp could really tell them I don't know. I mean, who do you guys think will be week one? Are you guys like me? I think training camp is going to determine it. I don't think they really know right now. Do you guys think differently?
I do a
I
little.
think you're
I
right.
think they're leaning more towards Anthony Richardson, and I think they're just trying to put some fuel into the fire for him, to get him, on his A game, because he's struggling. You know what I mean? Like it's clear he's struggling. Nobody wants to disown that. So I think that's why. And then Daniel Jones is, I would say, that's a good backup. Like if he's a backup quarterback, that's pretty solid in my opinion. So they brought him in, and I do think I can see Anthony Richardson starting. I just think it's going to be a thing where he's struggling again, or he's injured, or he's going to be gassed because he's running the ball all game, and Daniel Jones is going to end up going in there.
It could also be like a Bryce Young situation. Like, you know how like Bryce Young was just completely trash in the beginning of the year, And then who's their like secondary in the Panthers?
Andy Dalton, the vet.
He came in, he did really good like 2-3 games. He got switched in again. He did pretty good the whole like rest of the season.
Right.
Like it might be like that,
Yeah,
might need
and
his eyes open, yeah.
very well so it could be that. And I think that's kind of what they're trying to do early on in the preseason. Just put some fuel into that fire. And I mean, if you really look at Daniel Jones too, like I don't think we should necessarily count him out, because I'm just looking at his stats here, and realistically his completion range percentage is not that bad. 63%, 67, 67, 64, 62, 61. So he's over the 60% of completion. It's just he throws a lot of interceptions and he doesn't throw a lot of touchdowns. But to be fair, I mean, every player that's on the Giants doesn't do good. I mean, the Giants suck. Their O-line's garbage. I mean, there's not a lot there. So I think that Daniel Jones still needs another shot. And I'm not saying that Anthony Richardson needs another shot. I'm just saying if they do start Anthony Richardson, he needs to show that early on. Like, he needs to go out there and he needs to come out with a bang. And he needs to be thrown for more than 10 completions a game, because you can't win with 10 completions a game, especially when you're throwing the ball for 30 plus times.
Yeah, I mean, when you're a quarterback and you have the lowest completion percentage of any NFL quarterback, and they bench you, that's a problem. And I think that's one of the things that Richardson has to show. What you're talking about is come out, show that you can get a string of completions going, show that athletic ability. Because so far, from what I've heard in minicamp and stuff, Daniel Jones looked really well, looked good for them. So he needs to come out, and that's a problem, because that's, those GMs and those coaches have short memories. They remember what happened last year. So I think he's going to be under a microscope. I think they're going to be looking at that. And I think the team generally probably thinks they can win with both quarterbacks. They think both of them could do it. Or at least that's what they're putting out there, in the media. When some of the players have been talking, but I just don't know. I mean, that wasn't good. I don't like quarterbacks that have low completion percentages. It's not a winning, combination. But I do like the guy. I think he has the capability. He needs to show it. He can't be one of those guys. Oh, he's so athletic, but he can't throw. That's always a challenge for these quarterbacks that are mobile quarterbacks. You got to show you have some ability to throw the ball. And so far he's been struggling at an NFL level. At least that's how I see it.
Yeah, and he is very young. So like we got to give him the benefit of the doubt. And sometimes quarterbacks just take a little bit longer to develop, and I understand that. But I don't know. I'm seeing a lot more negative than I'm seeing positive. Like I strongly believe that Anthony Richardson sometimes is a very overrated quarterback, because again, they just look at his build and they've looked at college highlights, and he's a flashy player. But I don't know, man. Like I don't believe in him. I'm sorry. I just don't believe in AER.
No, I understand. He needs to prove himself.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we'll wrap it up there. We'll end. That was the 5 that we have. Let us know what you guys think in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and then make sure you guys check out all our socials. We'll have it here on the screen. All right, See you guys.
Peace.
Bye.